The Guns at Last Light, Rick Atkinson's long-awaited third and final volume in his Liberation Trilogy, is to be released on May 14th. The series follows the United States military in the European theater in World War II on the long, hard road from North Africa to Berlin. It's our pleasure to have this multiple Pulitzer Prize winning author here at the National World War II Museum to talk about his latest work. We are here in the museum's Normandy to Berlin exhibit where we can talk about the Allies' ultimate objectives in Europe. We know that Eisenhower had long been focused on getting to Berlin. Rick, can you tell us why he suddenly thought about turning his forces to the south of Germany?
Even before D-Day, Eisenhower had said that Berlin was the main objective of his Allied armies, and he reaffirmed that in September of 1944, but in March of 1945 he changed his mind. He said that he was going to steer the main Allied force 100 miles to the south toward Dresden and Leipzig. He had good reasons for this. There were 1 million Soviet soldiers within 30 miles of Berlin. The Anglo-American forces were still 200 miles away. The Russians had been preparing for 5 months at this point to take Berlin. There were estimates that it would cost 100,000 American casualties perhaps to take Berlin. And we didn't want to get into an argument with the Russians at this point because we needed the Russians to go help us fight the Japanese ultimately. Eisenhower also became obsessed with the notion that the Germans were building what was called a National Redoubt in the Alps, probably somewhere in Austria, a last bastion where the German forces could hold out for months, if not for years. There were estimates by Allied intelligence that there were factories underground building Messerschmitts, that much of the government from Berlin had shifted to the Alps, and that this redoubt could handle tens, perhaps dozens of German soldiers, SS soldiers. Eisenhower steered his armies to some extent. He sent an entire army group into Austria in order to try to defeat this redoubt. The redoubt was largely a fiction. It was created in part by the Germans to get the Americans to think that the Germans were not going to give up easily, and therefore we would offer them easier terms. It affected the strategy of the army, and in the long run it was nothing but a fantasy.